Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of Attack Protection. Today, bankrupt once again by Matt and Trevor.
Hey, everybody.
Ooh,
In today's matchup, well, it's Matt taking on Trevor. And we got, we don't see it yet, but Trevor is playing Gotenks and Matt is playing 3Han. Oh, that's why Matt was reading the card to verify the leader again. Yeah, there's buttons, links, check them out. Let's kind of get into it. Trevor, it has been a while.
yeah, it's been about a month since I've been out to this off. Had some birthday stuff, some anniversary stuff, and a few other things that kind of kept me from going to this off. Always, of course, still on Saturdays, which is when we have our local. But I think if I have to choose between spending time with my wife on our anniversary or going to a local card shop, I'm probably going to choose my anniversary with my wife.
That's fair.
But it's good to be back. Came back with a tried and true deck that is pretty much autopilot. So
As much as I love the deck, I will agree it does feel like that for most of the plays in the deck. And we got Matt, who's been playing 3Han for a while now.
Yeah, like Trevor, I really don't get to the shop that often anymore, maybe once or twice a month if I'm lucky. So if I find a deck that I have any degree of competence with, I just tend to stick with it until it's no longer meta relevant. And I feel pretty comfortable with 3Han. I'm not great with it, but I can win some games. Managed to go, find myself in the finals of locals this week against Trevor, so that's always a fun surprise.
yeah, every time I play against Matt when he plays 3Han, it's always been insanely one-sided. So granted, since he's had so much time on the deck now, I'm starting to slowly learn how to play against it. And playing tonight made me realize how good of certain cards are in this deck that a lot of people seem to be kind of undervaluing nowadays. Stuff like certain counter plays and things of that nature.
Like right off the bat, like I feel like made a huge mistake charging my my Android negate. I hadn't played against Gotenks in a long time, but I think that Android with its floodgate capacity is just so valuable against any sort of green deck that can get aggressive in late turns.
Yeah, Gotenks before was pretty decently aggro if you couldn't take care of the board. But with the starter deck variant or the reboot of it, I feel like it just got even more aggro to it. And it's green, so like if it's playing against a deck that wants to also kind of go aggro, it's like, hey, I have this card called Dormant. I'm slowing you down. And with 3Han, Trevor never has to worry about the Golden Ape counterplay or the counter because you're never going to get to that point.
Yeah, and Trevor's version is, at least the way this game played out, was not super aggro, but it's just when he wants to slit your throat, if you don't have, once you get to like round 4 or turn 4 and he has the ability to cut your throat, if you don't have, negates you can act on or some sort of floodgates, he's going to cut your throat with it. He plays it very well, and if he has an opportunity to finish you, he's not going to miss it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like the one downside to 3Han is you can't really run too many extra cards or any at all, depending on who you ask. Like Jimmy, for example, says 0 extra cards in it.
This is more or less Jimmy's stolen build, so there are no extra cards in it.
Yeah, so then you're just kind of relying on your battle cards that also happen to say counter attack on them. So, but of course, the 3Han build is extremely aggressive, as we'll see here. I'm still at 1 energy, and I'm always surprised. I don't know why I'm always surprised, but I'm always surprised at just how much aggression this deck can put out on 2 energy on 3Han side.
One thing I've really thought about, and I can think of, I've been playing this deck I didn't actually really start playing it heavily. My wife had cancer earlier on this year, and she's 100% healthy and cancer-free now. But, I didn't go to locals for about 3.5, 4 months. So it wasn't really until I think May that I started to get heavily into three Han around maybe around late May, early June. I just wasn't playing, but I can't recall actually ever winning a game with Gohan Beast, which is the SCR that I run. It's it's a fantastic card in the deck, but I can't recall it ever actually like deciding a game for me. And I'm strongly considering, I know this goes against the advice of most three Han players, but I'm strongly considering pivoting to Baby Hatch.
Baby Hatch is one of those cards where it's like it's the oh shit button. Like if you can't, if your opponent's starting to get a huge advantage against you and you need it to stop, Baby Hatch is there for you.
Because like I can't tell you how many times I've lost, I've gone 2-1 at locals with this deck, and I'm thinking to myself, if I just had one more negate in hand, one more negate, I would have survived till the next turn, and I would have won on the crackback. And Baby Hatch is kind of the, it's kind of the, like you said, the ultimate safety valve.
Without getting too far away, Trevor, where are you at right now in mindset? You're at 3 life before you even got to turn 2.
Yeah, this happened to me twice tonight, or that night. It happened when I played against Austin's Green Cooler, because all the support that it's gotten, you're able to just put out stupid amounts of pressure, and then it happened again here. Basically, the game has so many one-cost dual attackers that are 20k right now, that you can play on turn 2, that it's extremely hard to decide, okay, do I negate one of these with clone? Well, I don't think I had clones in hand, but if I did, I would have used it. Or do I try and combo out but then lose hand? Because you have to spend 3 cards or a super combo and a 5K to get out of a 20k swing while you're unawakened. So, and Gotenks kind of really relies on awakening on your own turn to restand that extra energy so that you have a few other options, whether it be your turn or your opponent's turn. But it was very frightening because I know how much pressure he put out on me last turn. I have to kind of figure out how to play around it on the following turn.
Sorry, Trevor.
But it ends up like you got to play it in the sense of you got to stop the aggression as soon as you possibly can in the turn. Of course, green has the best option for that, Dormant. So, as expected, you'll see Dormant in a green game.
One mistake I made, you saw that Trevor popped my, I can never remember his name, infiltrating Piccolo or whatever it is, the dual attacker. And I think one of the mistakes I made was forgetting, how much Gotenks can pop. And I should have just given the card barrier instead of, playing the pan from the deck. That was that was a mistake. Because Bancroft, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the options is to choose to give it barrier until the start of my next turn.
If correct, I think you played it right though. What you're doing, you're initially taking 2 cards out of your deck, and you applied initially 2 damage to Trevor with only 1 energy because you got to restand energy using your leader's ability. It's hit or miss a lot of times. Would the extra pressure be better during this turn right here? Probably. And looking at your hand, I think you could play both the Black Rose Goku and the Goku Oob just fine without having any issues. So like you would have even more pressure.
So like this was a source of this sucked getting charismatic here because
yes and no. It's 1 energy.
The problem is the mistake I made was not playing, and this was a huge mistake. I should have played the Goku Rose or the Goku Black or whatever you want to call him. I should have played that on the activate battle portion of the Gohan swing. That was a huge mistake because he popped my Oob. So I now am going to struggle to find something to get out to then activate, because the Goku Rose only plays, you have to play it in the activate battle step. You can't just hard cast it. So that was a mistake. I should have played it, during Gohan's swing, and then, if he presumably pops it with charismatic, and that's fine, and then I can then, play Oob that way. So that was a mistake there, and I had actually forgotten about that. Going back and watching the game, that's a good reminder that never take when you're playing against green, don't take any battles for granted. And if you have a window to do an activate battle play, just take it, because God knows when you're going to get another one. Instead I go into the Beerus, which, isn't a bad play under the circumstances. Bancroft, one thing I wanted to ask you, and I believe, I was kind of playing this out. This does not actually happen in this game, but from a ruling standpoint, if I play the Piccolo and he then responds with the charismatic villain, and my auto goes into pending. If I choose to then give the Piccolo barrier, and that would resolve before the auto on his
Correct. Yeah.
Frieza,
Because you're
that
turn
would
player.
protect it then. Okay, that's what I thought. Is the result would be to protect it from charismatic villain.
It's one of those things, though. I will say, in aspect, they want you to play the pan, because then during the pan's play, they'll play like a charismatic or something else, and then target the Piccolo afterwards. So it's still 50-50.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't considered that. You play Piccolo, they say no response, then you play the pan, because it's not just the card, it's any card. I hadn't considered that. Yeah, I guess on green, I should just always default to giving it barrier and just assume he has a charismatic in hand. That's probably the safest route.
I will say, with this also being green, we can see in Trevor's energy, which probably means he has more in his deck.
That was the other mistake I made, is that that was your first charge, wasn't it, Trevor?
It was my second one.
Yeah, so I mean,
he charged Faded Rival, so I'm trying to point at, which gets past barrier. So, against green, it's really iffy. Like, you just have to watch out for the cards in general. But this Gotenks is one of my favorites.
Yeah, whenever I initially played this deck, I really liked the 3-drop Gotenks that came in the starter deck, and I was like, why is everybody, playing the Grim Reaper? Because I didn't play Gotenks, the original one. I just picked it up once the reboot came out. And I'm like, you're still drawing the same number of cards with it. You're still, it's one less energy. Yeah, you don't get the dual attack and the replenished card. But then I realized that I was not using the ghost tokens in a way that's actually conducive for the deck. And it just kind of clicked tonight when I was in my first game when I played against someone. I think my first game was Austin. And ideally you want to pop that ghost token for the free combo. That way you can actually steadily build up that Z energy, so that once it comes to kill turn, you can make use of your Z leader, because it costs 3. And then you also have to get rid of another 2 for its activate battle to gain the double striking power. So that's effectively 5 Z energy, just to make full use of your Z leader, let alone if you want to try and play like Frieza, the 2-drop one that drops the card from your opponent's hand, or say here, and if they are playing a more unison heavy deck that doesn't have Empower. So it made me realize that now I see why other deck lists don't use as many of that 3-drop from the starter deck, because you're basically losing a Z energy by playing it instead. So it's more needs, more specific. If you just need to pop a 3-drop without barrier or something, you would play it instead. But obviously the 6-drop Gotenks Grim Reaper just sits on board and says, hey, if you don't deal with me, you're going to deal with another 25k dual attack following turn. Or if you deal with me, I draw 2 cards. So.
So are you able to keep Goku Oob this time?
No, I should have played another Beerus. That was a mistake. I should have played another Beerus.
Ooh,
Because Beerus has
not a
Beerus
lot of
has deflect.
options.
Beerus has deflect and barrier, correct?
I don't recall if it has barrier. Top of my
It
head.
may not have. Well, if it doesn't have barrier, then I'm in the same boat. I just can't recall off the top of my head if it does or not.
This has barrier, no deflect.
Okay, then yeah, I should have played the Beerus.
Play the Beerus.
Add to it the energy, then restand and play the two more. This wasn't an awful play here. This put some pressure on him.
It is a nice triple shot. I mean, you are giving, like, he will gain resources back forever.
Yeah, he's just been sitting at 3 life for forever, so I have to try to accomplish something.
No, not that.
Yeah. This is a situation where I didn't read my cards. I drew 2 cards as opposed to grabbing 2 cards from, or like the fusion pieces from my drop area.
Yeah.
Goes to show I almost never played Grim Reaper in the past, so I just kind of assumed that's what it is. Because the idea is there, I get 2 cards back, just I got them from the wrong area.
So that was dumb, throwing the extra pan in there. I just really wanted him to take the life, but I should have kept the resource. That was really stupid. That could have unlikely have made a difference, but it was still would have been nice to have it.
I would say, yeah, like, I mean, looking at your hand here, you can easily potentially combo out any attack, then use your leader's ability to get cards back. You don't have any open energy, so you are sitting in a situation right now with no negates either. So
the other thing I'm really worried about is the -6 on his unison. I've got 2 cards in hand. If he -6 is his unison, I have no cards in hand. I've got a super combo and another battle card. And the unison's making me nervous. So right now I'm thinking to myself, if I need to, well, we'll just see how we'll see how it plays out. But the -6 on the unison is concerning to me at this point.
Yeah, and I know he can restand an energy with his 3-on leader. I don't know if that's only on his turn or can also be on my turn.
It's also on your turn, yeah.
So as long as he charges as the energy at the end of the first battle, I was going to expect him to restand an energy, and then it basically becomes a question of does he top deck another floodgate negate during that hand refresh that you get at return once a turn. You kind of have to evaluate your own hand. And the number of times that I've talked myself out of going for a kill because I was so worried about what's in my opponent's hand or what they might take, it's just way too high to count. So I've learned my lesson. If I see an opportunity to kill, you just need to go for it. And if they happen to have the answer, then they have the answer, but they'll also have the answer again in a future turn. So that's kind of my mindset that's kind of changed over time, playing the game a bit more. And
so, sorry.
I wanted him to bend his hand here or choose not to, and then rip his hand with the unison. So
and the reason I comboed out everything there is before he played the Piccolo Goku, he had a double striker on the table, and I knew his Z leader could gain double strike. So I thought if I could, without knowing that the Piccolo was coming, I thought that if I could survive one of the 2 double strike swings, I'd be fine. And the reason I tried to survive the first one rather than take the 2 life and try to survive the second one is because I was so worried about that -2. I was like, well, he hasn't used the -2 yet. You might as well just go in and try to survive the first double strike swing. Then if the lead swing takes you down to 2, you're fine, not knowing that the Piccolo Goku was coming, at which point I was just done.
And with that, thank you all for tuning in. Keep in mind there's buttons down below, links in the description, and bye.